Good evening, and welcome to yet another very interesting Green Talk Show program where we discuss um, sustainability. And this evening, we are privileged to host a very good friend of mine for quite some time and a colleague in the profession. And the topic for this evening is quite interesting as well. And I believe that at the end of this evening session, we are going to have spent a very productive time together. My name is Martin Bakundana, and I work with Makerere University, and I am privileged to be the host of this evening's session. I am privileged as well to be associated with my Tree Initiative, which is the proud host and sponsor of this amazing program. And without wasting a lot of our time, I want to take a few moments to introduce our guest speaker this evening. And like I said at the beginning, we are indeed privileged to be having a conversation this evening with none other than FCCA Stevens Mwanje, who is the CFO at NSSF Uganda. And NSSF does not need any introduction, and certainly Stevens does not need a lot of introduction. But I will obviously give him an opportunity right now to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about himself, his career, what he actually does at NSSF, and especially how it relates to our topic of discussion this evening. In a moment, I will be asking Stevens to do that. But before I do that, allow me to give a bit of an insight into today's discussion. The topic is how can institutions align their tax and financial strategies with environmental sustainability? And for many of you who have been following these conversations that we've had over the last few weeks and months, we've hosted a number of guests talking about financial sustainability, talking about ESG, talking about climate change, and a number of these other issues which are very, very pertinent in as far as today's challenges are concerned. And this evening, we've decided to take a bit of an institutional approach. We are looking at the role of institutions such as NSSF in actually achieving this very broad dream, because at the end of it all, we are looking at how we can support one another to ensure that sustainability is a dream by 2030, and it has actually been achieved. And therefore, allow me at this moment to invite our guest, FCCA Stevens. Please do introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself, what you do at NSSF, and how your role relates to the topic that we are having this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. I hope I'm audible enough. If I'm not, please tell me so that I can try to be louder, but I believe I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
And thank you for your very kind introduction, which now makes it very easy for me to speak about myself because you've done quite a bit of it. But of course, I'm called Stevens Mwanje. I prefer to be called Stevens. I've always worked in an environment where titles are not, they really don't matter. We all go by first name basis in NSSF. So Stevens is good for me, even when we are in the chat or whatever. So please drop the CFO bit. I'll be very comfortable. Of course, CFO finance, CFO NSSF, heading the finance function, basically do the usual things, which are the traditional finance function. But we are also doing quite other things which have not been traditionally finance. One of them is probably we are doing a lot of big data analysis and analytics. We are aggressively mastering into advisory to both management and the board and external stakeholders. We are actually doing quite a bit of pro bono work to help other organizations come up and improve their reporting. Basically converting to IFRS and issues like that. We have helped quite a number of companies which are public institutions. Basically, as NSSF Finance and me, that's what I do outside of what is the traditional thing. But then the question is, how does this then come into sustainability? I think for us to understand that, we need to go and kind of look at how the accounting profession has evolved. You know, in the 1800s, we were just what we call bookkeepers as accountants. We were just bookkeepers. Everyone just wanted you to keep their books, and that was it. In the darkest corner, in around in 1900s, we evolved, because now people are starting to understand the value of businesses. That businesses we are growing into corporates, and now finance, the accountants are a bit now involved in the strategic formulation of the organization, because you do the budgets, you do the numbers, but still nothing much was taken up, thought about us. But I think as finance people, CFOs, the impact really started being felt in the 2000s. Because now the 2000s, it has become onwards, has become patently clear that reporting about the company is no longer about numbers. It's no longer about historical figures. The current executive, the current stakeholder is not only no longer interested in knowing how you performed last year. They're actually more interested in how you are going to perform in the future. And that's why now CFOs become very, very valuable. And now the CFO, the finance people, have a seat on the table. And since we have a seat on the table, this is the time to make sure that we utilize that seat quite well. That's why now you see even the title of CFO is now evolved. It's into Chief Value Officer. In other words, you play a very big role in the sustainability of the organization and the sustainability of the organization as a responsible corporate citizen. I think you never know in the future that it might even again evolve again to Chief Sustainability Officer. So that's it. That's just about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stevens, for that elaborate introduction. And I just have a quick follow-up on that, because you've mentioned things like Chief Value Officer, which is a recent trend in the finance world. But I just wanted you to make our viewers and listeners understand, especially those who are new to this sustainability language. What actually is this sustainability, and what does an entity like NSSF have to do with it anyway?
Sustainability, I think, has been shortened from ESG, that is environment, social, and governance issues. Because when you really come to it, like I said before as finance people, accountants, everything we used to report as at. You draw the line and report as at. And then we'll be comfortable and go. And everyone then will try to say, oh, last year, if we sold 5 mugs at 20 shillings each, next year we are going to sell 5 mugs, probably 6 or 7 mugs with at 7 shillings each. And everything was based on. But then realize that the organization, a corporate organization, is also a citizen. A corporate citizen has to act responsibly. So now you have to look at the other aspect, because the stakeholders, the people who are giving you finance, are becoming more and increasingly aware and concerned about the environment, the governance, what happened socially. You had the court ruling, where was it yesterday or the other day, where the judge refused to give Elon Musk the money he was trying to give himself as pay, $2 billion or something. He said, no, that is not socially responsible. And that's the issue of poor governance. Now, everyone, like when you go to annual general meetings, people are no longer only interested in knowing whether you're giving them a dividend, but how are you making it? Are you using child labor? Are you wasting resources? So that is where now sustainability comes. So when you say ESG, then you say you have to look. We used to say that the companies are going concerns. Probably now we should be saying companies should be sustainable concerns.
Fantastic. And I will just pick it straight from there and head straight into the other serious stuff.
Yes.
Of course, institutions like NSSF have overarching financial goals that they pursue, periodically, right? And so I want you to share with us and our viewers what are some of the specific steps, or what are some of the specific investments that NSSF as an organization has undertaken to align their financial goals with environmental sustainability, especially to address the long-term risks and opportunities that are associated or might be associated with climate change issues, especially in Uganda.
Okay. NSSF, we pride ourselves at being able to take the lead in all the emerging concepts. And we started like 4 years ago. We literally pioneered integrated reporting. This is our 4th year of integrated reporting. All the other organizations, I think, took it up, and in which we based on the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals of UNDP, which basically summarizes the ESG sustainability. But of course, this is a nascent area. Even in the developed world, they are still on the trajectory to get it done. But you said, let's start. So we are now in that period where we are saying we are going to, every year we do something better. Every year we do something like that. So if we get back to the projects, I can give you a few examples. The first project that the first thing that we do, like when you come to our offices, the first thing you will notice, you will not see any paper on people's desks.
Okay. Wow.
You don't see, you not.
That's amazing.
So what we are doing is we are decarbonizing. We are helping to decarbonize the world. If we look at like 3 years back, our paper consumption has gone down by 65%. The paper now we use in our office is basically driven by 2 things. Number one, the paper that the external stakeholders send in as a form of communication, which we immediately digitalized and archive. And anything that comes to NSSF, if you write a letter, whichever, we immediately digitalize it. And after that moment, it moves digitally. And then, of course, we have other exceptions, like if we are dealing with organizations that insist that they have to have some hard copy. If you're dealing with the courts, if you're dealing with procurement, that is where the paper is. But if those were not there, I think we'll be over 90%. That's number one. Number two, you've all seen our pension towers coming up. And I told you the first thing we are helping to decarbonize. We've seen our pension towers coming up. It's going to be the first smart building in the region, the East African region. Everything about this is automated to control the consumption of energy in that building. I know we have other things here, like in NSSF, if for 3 minutes, I sit here for 3 minutes and I'm not moving my hand or head or whatever, the lights will go off. because the room will presume there is no one in the room. The sensors will switch off the lights. But the other buildings is going to be so smart that even if a tenant leaves, now that is for us, even if a tenant leaves on, say, microwave for 30 minutes in the socket, to realize this microwave is not powering and switches off the socket. So that is pension towers. That is already happening and is put in place.
Wow.
If I go to Lubowa housing project, before we did Lubowa, we had to get a full environment impact study by NEMA. And we are doing so many things there to help the environment. One of them, we are running our own sewage treatment. That whole area is not going to be dependent on sewage just appearing anywhere. We are going to treat it properly, and then we turn into a lake, an artificial lake, which will be part of a recreation after treating the water that is coming, which part of the recreation gardens of the area. I can go on and on. We have so many other things. If you look right now, we are partnering with so many, with the bankers and the Ministry of Finance, and we are in discussions on how to start climate financing, basically green financing. The government is thinking about introducing inducements for people who will be able doing sustainable business or climate sensitive business, so that they can get tax rebates, etc. But also thinking about issuing a government bond. We are heavily involved in that. And
thank you.
I can go ESG itself, because now it is something, whatever we are led by finance department taking the lead, we are making sure that it becomes a a fully fledged section in the fund, staffed. And we also, we have been lobbying our chairman, who is very, very, very amenable, that very soon we'll have an ESG board committee. And lastly, one of the things that we are doing is we are developing right now a sustainability or ESG quantification of all these activities. We are developing a model where we'll be able to translate them into numbers that we are going to be putting in our financials. Hopefully, end of these financial years, we'll be able to do that. And if we do that, we'll be the second corporate organization to do that in the region. Safaricom has started it, but probably by the time we do ours, it will even be better than Safaricom. So those are the steps we've been taking. Thank you. Among others.
Yes, amazing, Stevens. I listening to you and some of the things that you're already doing is just heartwarming, because we want to, hear many other institutions and organizations coming up with the same, because of the damage that is happening to our environment and all that. And that actually answers partly my next question, because I am also looking at what is the future of sustainability finance.
Yes.
But I'm going to ask the question anyway.
Yeah.
And so, but before I do, I want to also note that there is already a lot of activity in our chat room. People are already asking questions. I can see about 4 or 5 questions already in the chat. So we might have to struggle to address all these concerns in the chat. So the next question that I'm going to fire over to you is, looking ahead, what are some of the future trends that you see in the landscape of sustainability finance that might prove to be beneficial in advancing both financial as well as sustainability goals for an institution like NSSF?
Okay. Quite many. Like I said, this is a new field. You can't exhaust them. And I hope at a certain point in the chat, we will not be having only questions, but also additions. First of all, I've talked about climate financing. This is becoming real. Even when you look at venture capitalists, who should be the sharks of finance, they also started looking at making sure that when they're putting money in the companies, they are looking at the climate, at sustainability, really, really good. Now, the other thing is a lot of companies have been spending a lot of time greenwashing. Like you spend a lot of time to see, we support this, we support that, and put out, but on actually not doing anything. So what is happening, like I said, you are going to be able to be asked to have a model where you quantify this. You know, when you are finance and say like IFRS 9, you have to have a model, which is auditable. Very soon we are going to be having a model where you have to say, you have to quantify the sustainability things you are going. Then legislation is coming up. Now, if you look at the government of Uganda, there's a lot of legislation that is putting up, but it is scattered here and there. You say the president says no charcoal in this area, but other places are doing charcoal. They say there's a law against polythene Kavera. No one is whatever. But what is happening right now in the developed world, they have fully fledged ministries in charge of sustainability, and they are coordinating all these activities. They are like combining all these activities. And once they do that, then the legislation, you have to comply. That means when you are reporting, you have to give these numbers and prove that you are actually compliant. Then other things, if we look at some of the goals other companies have, like companies have set themselves very interesting goals. You find some of them say net zero by 2030. Everything that we do, everything that the people, the suppliers and the people we are dealing with, we want net zero by what? You will find that very soon, what do you call them? Regulators are going to be coming up with targets for us to follow. Now, once they become targets, then you have to start putting numbers to them. You start have to budget for them. Corporate interventions, governance, the boards are increasingly getting an ESG committees on the board now. When you report to the board, you have to report with numbers. Those numbers are not going to be drawn out of the air. You have to be setting up metrics and be very clear on what we're measuring. We can go on, but basically, and of course now that translates into sustainability reporting. We have seen integrated reporting and how it is using based on UNDP SDGs. Those 17 SDGs, actually, when you look at them, they have got, UNDP has set standards and goals there for you to achieve minimum. So you'll find that industries, like the financial industries, very soon will be setting goals for everybody. So that is the future. We cannot avoid it.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. And allow me to also report that our audience actually is from all over the world. I can see people logged in from Brussels in Belgium. I see also very many logged in from various parts of Uganda. So we are reaching far and wide, and our conversations are really being followed. So, like I mentioned, there are quite a number of questions in the chat, but we are not going to take all of them. So we are going to try and prioritize them. Perhaps maybe spend about a minute or so on each question. There is a question from Edgar from Makerere University, and he's asking, what challenges has NSSF faced in aligning its financial strategies with environmental sustainability? If you can quickly respond to that.
Of course, the immediate challenge, you notice the immediate challenge that this is a new area. This is a new area. You know, sustainability is a new area. When, for example, if I want to say, and I say I want to deal with suppliers who are like are keen about the environment, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle So if I am building, for example, we put up this project and say you put up Goa and you buy lots of bricks, millions of bricks from the suppliers, but how are these bricks baked? Quite a number of them, they use firewood to bake them. And you will not say and come and say, I want to take those bricks which have been baked using sustainable energy. You are going to use solar, but you also have to see where do they get the clay that makes these bricks. Some of them are got from swamps which are being destroyed. So the challenge is that we have to have an all-round concerted effort, starting with governments, setting realistic and achievable laws and setting targets that every 2 or 3, 5 years we should have reached this milestone. As long as we don't have that concerted effort, you can be a lone player who is very keen on sustainability, but what's around you cannot allow you to operate the way you want. So that's basically one of them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Stephen, for that. You mentioned something in your presentation about what NSF has done on the financial metrics bit in terms of reporting, and there is a question from Kasaga Abdu, who is asking, what are some of the key financial metrics that CFOs should prioritize to ensure financial strategy alignment with sustainability? Just highlight one or two.
Okay. Of course, now metrics start with what you want to achieve. Because if you are talking about sustainability, you might be like, you want to decarbonize your own work environment. I told you, we started by looking at paper as a way of cutting cost. But now we realize that we're actually helping to decarbonize the environment. If I tell you the amount of paper rims that we are buying just a year, hundreds, just a month, in thousands in a year. Now we have totally cut down by over 70%. What are we doing? We are helping decarbonize. So when you come to metrics, there might be other things. You might say that you might set targets based on all suppliers, that the people who provide me with this particular service, I expect them to have particular, say probably they are also decarbonizing, and they have to prove it to me. Takes us back that then we have to have a standard. How do we measure? Because everyone might start to measure it their own way. So the challenge is that the metrics can only be developed according to what you want to measure. They are not like they are going to be standard, just like we do other things. Of course, eventually, I'm sure when as the standards become firmer and regulators come in place, they might start saying you have to measure this, and this is the limits that you should exceed or should not go. We should not exceed or should not go below. That is coming. So in the moment, we are playing it by the ear. We're just borrowing and looking, playing by the ear, using our own intuition, and also borrowing from some of those organizations which are ahead of us. So it's still a green field.
Absolutely.
As long as you are heading in the right direction.
Exactly. And as I said earlier, I love some of the initiatives that you've mentioned, which obviously show and demonstrate that you are an institution that is, ensuring that we actually have a future to look forward to. And the 21st century has collaboration as one of the key skills for any senior management official. And there's a question around that from Tenua Samuel. And he's asking, what partnerships or collaborations should CFOs and institutions generally consider to promote sustainable finance? And that will be the second last question that I will take.
Okay, and that's a very interesting question. Sorry, who's the person who asked it? The name again?
Tenua Samuel.
Samuel, that's a very, very interesting and a very poignant question. Because now, if you look at the CFO, you, as a CFO, you are the heart of the organization. every transaction that is done in organization eventually translates into a number. So you know about everything. Secondly, you also responsible for the external and the internal reporting. So you are the single source of truth for the number that is going out for the organization, the number that is going to be audited. Now, that puts you in a very interesting position where you now, as CFO, we should be the ones taking the lead. We should be the champions of these things. We should be shouting from the top of the trees. Now, what do we do? The CFO, you have access to the board, where the power lies in your organization.
Yeah.
You have access to all your executive, to the C-suite persons in the organization, where power lies. You have ability to influence how the money will be distributed because you are in charge of the budget and what is being put in the budget and what is going to be whatever. Because of your circles, like my good friend here, Dr. Martin, you have professional bodies where you can go.
Yes.
Not only borrow good learnings, but also shout out that we need to be doing this. So the best thing is that just use your network as CFO as best as you could. So that in NSSF, I told you, for the finance department, we have taken ourselves as the champions of starting sustainability, ESG. We started because we say if we start with a big step and saying we are going to do metrics or whatever, we started with one step. Let's say, let's do the integrated report. Let's use some SDGs from UNDP. Every year we have been going a step higher. By the time we've done it for 4 years, by the 10th year, you're going to be NSSF way ahead. That's how to do incrementally, persistently, and shout from the top of the roof. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stevens. And I wish we had more time, but we unfortunately don't. There are still many questions in the chat, and I'm just going to pick one very last one, which I will request you to just respond to in 10 seconds. And this is from Chin to Declan. He's asking that there are a lot of local grassroots initiatives that target recycling of materials.
Yes.
What would you say about corporations helping these grassroots projects out?
Thank you, Declan. Interesting. So I also have to declare, accountants, we are told to declare. That one happens to be my son, and I hope he's not being cheeky. But, but Declan, thank you very much. Yes, the corporates quite a number of corporates have gone out to help these organizations to do the recycling. But like I said, the problem is very big. If any of one of you, if you go in your village and whatever, you see the amount of polythene in the soil. They might be getting and recycling at a small scale, but there's no legislation. There are no incentives that are being given to these big companies, say that will help them, that will give them a business advantage to make this into a big business. So they find it cheaper probably to use the material that is coming from the oil industries to produce new plastics rather than recycle the old ones, because there's a lot involved. You have to sort them, you have to wash them, you have to know they are different colors. So they are quite costly. But if the factories there was legislation and incentives to help them do this, it would help. So when you say there are so many local peoples who are recycling, they're actually collecting and taking to whatever to the factories. The factories only pick out probably only the clear ones and only the cleaner ones. It's not yet organized the way it is, so it's still not yet sustainable. Sustainability is a big thing. It needs big brother government to wield a big stick, and followed by incentives. Yeah? You have a carrot, a big carrot on one hand and a big stick on the other hand. And then everybody falls in place. But as long as we don't have well coordinated, it's going to be a lot of greenwashing.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Stevens. And like I said, I wish we had more time because this conversation was getting more and more interesting.
What we
Just
can do
highlight.
probably, if the admin can have these questions, we can always respond to them. And the persons can send them to the admin, their
Yes,
email
yes,
addresses. We'll be happy to respond to
yes.
all of them. Thank
Yes, absolutely. The admin has taken note of all the questions that have not been addressed and
you.
will forward them to you, and then you can provide some responses, and then we can give those responses back to the audience. I just wanted to, before we wrap it up, just highlight on the two things that you talked about. One is decarbonizing, which I think is very, very commendable because we need it as a country. And number two is, this whole concept of smart cities, which is now a buzzword. And now, in your case, you're talking about smart buildings. I think this is really, really fantastic, and we should try and encourage every organization that can to actually do this because it will, in the long run, ensure that not only is our environment safeguarded and protected, but our generations are also, the safety of our generation is also guaranteed. And that is where we are going to end it today. I will just give you 30 seconds to make your closing remarks, and then we can call it an evening.
Thank you, Doctor. First of all, I'm very privileged and humbled to be asked to be making my humble presentation to this auspicious group. But I also have to apologize that the doctor's been after me for quite a number of times. I will confirm and then something comes up. So I'm really, really privileged that I was able to be here. And like I said, this is a journey which all of us should be taking, even in our own homes. Lucky enough, my son is online, but he can tell you, I don't think he has seen charcoal almost all his life at home. I made a conscious decision many years ago that there should not be charcoal in my home. And I plant a couple of trees every year. That is my small contribution. Everyone should, starting from your own personal life up to your workplace, to help green the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this fantastic session we've had. I am always excited to have a conversation with you, and I'm looking forward to maybe another conversation at some point in the future. Thank you to our fantastic admin, to you, the audience, the questions that you put through. Unfortunately, we're not able to address all the questions, but we will make sure that the questions are forwarded to our guest, and then he will respond to the questions, and then we'll be able to get back to you. Otherwise, thank you so much for always tuning in. We look forward to hosting you once again at some point in the future. And for those of you who are perhaps in Kampala and it is evening, have a fantastic evening and have a good night. For those of you who are still in some other places where it is morning, have a great day ahead. And may God bless you. It is bye-bye from me.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening.